Hey there, Next Gen Millionaires. Welcome to this week's live stream of awesomeness. I'm Joe Burns, the Money Master. I am here to really help people understand money better, have a better relationship with it, um, and really accomplish the dreams you have and have the resources to do so. Um, so, yeah. So, this week I want to talk about I've been kind of looking at money and different things happening in the world, and I'm always fascinated by the news. Like I do read the news, and I pick things out. Obviously, my slant for money, how money is impacting the economy, how's it impacting politics, how's it impacting different businesses, things like that. So it's always fascinating when I run across stories um, that kind of pique my interest. And there's a few that have been in the news recently that kind of piqued my interest. And I want to pick one specifically, and I'll tell you about that. But there's some other ones about like in the U.S. There's one that caught my attention. I'll talk about later about the IRS and who they choose to audit. That was an interesting read. Um, but this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about well a little bit of back history of me, of things people don't necessarily know about me, um, but also about a major gaming company that there's been a lot of fallout the last couple of weeks, and just kind of not so much what's going on there, but just how that relates back to money and the friendship that I talk about with money, right? It's really about my goal for you is to become best friends with money. Um, and we do things sometimes we feel like we have to compromise because of that friendship, because we have really bad ideas of how friendship should work. And then we roll that into money, and money then becomes uh, the similar relationship that we have. So this last week, um, and for people who don't know a lot about me, that way, I love hockey, I love sports. Um, but one thing that I've also done for a long time is I play video games, right? There's a huge fan of different genres, and in some kind of just like brain veg moments, I'll play for a little bit, and things like that. So this last week, there was a huge lawsuit by the state of California against a company by the name of Activision Blizzard. And traditionally, they put out a bunch of really good games. Um, and, you know, understanding the culture of software development, right? If anybody knows about anything about gaming or game development studios, there's a lot of long hours, late nights when they're trying to push products, things like that. But when they decide this lawsuit, it spelled out a lot of different things about what were happening in the company, mostly around sexual harassment against their female coworkers and things like that. Like pretty grave allegations by the state of California, not just like people who work there, but by the state itself, who's done a 2 year study. So this sparked a lot of different conversations throughout the gaming community, which has been interesting to watch and watch people's responses because they've had this relationship with this company, right? They felt like, hey, we love it. They're fans of it, things like that. Um, and a lot of them are reevaluating that this week after all this news has dropped. Um, so it's fascinating to watch, um, kind of those relationships disintegrate. Um, and I don't blame them. I take the same similar stance. Sexual harassment will never fly in my book. It's definitely a value I have that people should be treated equally, um, and that kind of behavior is intolerable. So the conversations really what I want to get into because people have had this connection with this company, right, for years. Like the company specifically Blizzard has put out a lot of really good games for a long time. I remember I played my first one when I was like seventh or eighth grade, right? Just really high quality products. In the last few years, their products haven't been so high quality. And the community who've played them has started getting a little um, not so happy with the quality of products, right? So that relationship. Now let's take a look at the relationship. The relationship has started to deteriorate, and then you find out like all this craziness is happening behind the curtain, basically, and the curtain got pulled back. Now people have to make some tough decisions. So let's look at that from a friendship perspective, with our friends, with other relationships, and specifically around money, right? How many times do we have a similar situation where we've had a really good friendship for a really long time, and maybe we learned some stuff and we're like, oh, well, I don't know. Or this person does something and we're like, oh, well, okay, I can, okay, that's okay, but maybe, we start to justify why things are happening. And sometimes it's like maybe someone's having a bad day, like honestly. In the case of the relationship with this company, that's not just a bad day, that's a culture that's really toxic. Okay. But what happens is we find these little micro pieces within us, right? These little micro transactions we do with friendships, with relationships. And we start to compromise a lot of the times because we're like, well, we like for the most part this one thing that happened. I don't know. Now, I'm not saying one thing happens, like you have a bad experience with somebody, you should just scrap that friendship. But what I'm saying is we should start to ask questions and try to understand what's going on, right? And if we understand ourselves and our own values enough, then we'll know if this relationship is still within the bounds of something we want to work on. Does that make sense? So now if we go back to money, right, let's pull money into this because our friend, money, right, we do the same things. In the case of this Activision Blizzard thing, there are a lot of people being. I've had multiple conversations with like friends and just watched a lot of stuff online, and some people are like, "Yeah, it's bad, but not that bad." Blah blah blah, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, what?" Right? They're starting to compromise and see that, hey, there are things that we can tolerate if we just fix some of them. And I'm like, I don't know. Like if I worked for that company, I'd be gone, right? Because that's, I guess, one of my values. And some people are looking at things a little differently there. So you have to catch yourself when money's involved. How much are we going to compromise around friendships and relationships? In the job market, right? Whether you have a corporate job or you're an entrepreneur working for clients, you have to start really evaluating those relationships not based on the money you're getting. Because here's the honest fact. You can go find a new job, you can go find new clients, I promise you. That's the easy part. But you really have to evaluate of being like, where am I spending my time? What relationships do I have? Is it helping me become a better person? Or is it helping me stay the same? Or is it helping me become a worse person? Because friendships do that, right? There's that old saying of like, you know, uh, the five, like around the five, smart people or five people you hang out with, like that's kind of where you're at. So if you hang out with smarter people, that's, you'll elevate to their level. If you hang out with not so smart people, you'll kind of downgrade yourself. And I slaughtered that. So, you know, but you know what I'm talking about. So money's no different. Are we staying in situations because of the money? And every time I run into people who are, I'm like, you got to get out of that. You can go find a job, you can go find different clients, you can go make money differently, but you don't have to stay in an environment that's toxic to you, right? And that's important because there are what we would society would label toxic relationships and things like that. But everybody has to determine for themselves what that looks like. Because something I see as toxic might not feel that way to somebody else. We're at different levels, we're in different wavelengths, we value different things, and that's okay. So money starts to be one of those things that we start to compromise a lot for because we're like, oh, you can't. Like I was talking to somebody about this whole Activision Blizzard thing, and we got into, just like, no, like you can find a job anywhere. Like these software developers, in my opinion, if I was one of them, I'd be gone. And he came back at us and he's like, yeah, but you don't have kids, so you don't know. Like kids bad. You can't just like do whatever, right? If you have kids, then it makes a big difference. And I'm like, if you do have kids, that adds a complexity to the problem. It really does when you have to make these decisions. However, are you letting money dictate what you do, or are you letting your values be in alignment with what you want to do and have the power to go find something different? Okay, just sit with that for a moment. Do we have the power within us to go do something different? Because we know the money will be there. Do we have that relationship with money knowing that, hey, wherever we go, we'll make money? Think about that. Because if not, then money isn't really a good friend, because you think that if you only stay in this environment, will you get it? See what I'm saying there? We do that a lot with relationships. We're like, but I have these friends and I have to do these things because if not, then they're going to go away. Well, then are they good friends? This is a good environment for you? That you can't live your true authentic self and still believe the people around you will stay there? See, these are the things that go through my brain as I look at these different situations. Because money should not impact the decisions we're making. It should help support them. And when we have clients we can't handle, when we have, jobs we're in that we don't like, right? And they push against us, why are we still there? Why are we still allowing the money to dictate what we do? It should be the other way around. But the problem is we don't have this good relationship with money. It dictates to what we do in life, because if we have more of it, then we feel like we have more power to do stuff. If we have less of it, then we don't feel like we can do as much. And there are some limitations there. But the big thing is we have to be the one to do things with our passion, right? If we follow our passion inside of us, our principles, the values we have, and let the money follow. Because if you chase the money or you stay somewhere, you're going to be miserable. You're going to start to hate life. You're going to want to find a way out, or you're just going to be miserable and grumpy all the time. Because money is really not the thing that's causing you to be there. It's your fear that life can't be different than what you have. So think about that overall. Think about what situations are you staying in because you feel like you're going to lose a relationship. Are you ready to lose that relationship? Think about situations you're sitting in that you're like, I'm here because the money, right? I talk often about don't chase the money. Don't let it be the deciding factor of why you do something. Because there's money in anything. We can make money at like whatever you want to do. You can go sell t-shirts online, you can create a business, you can go mow lawns, you can do lots of different things. There's services and products out there people will buy. The real question is, why are you staying where you're at if you're not where you want to be? Why are you holding on to the clients that you don't like just because they're paying you and you're making some money? You should live a life that you enjoy. You shouldn't have to put up with friendships and relationships. You shouldn't always be the one to compromise. Now, I understand, like to close it off, I understand there's like times when we need to compromise a little bit. You can't just be so rigid that you're like, this is my box and I will not move. But I don't find that very often. I find mostly that people are compromising constantly because of money and justifying to themselves why they're doing things. And in some extreme cases, people start doing things that are completely outside of their person, like their character. We're like, why did that person do that, right? And sometimes it turns into, not saying always, but sometimes it turns into like illegal activity. And it's like, how'd you get from here to there? Right? Small compromises over and over because we let the money push us into doing things we didn't want to do, but we felt like we had to do. Money should be a co-conspirator in your life, not a slave master that pushes you to do more over and over and over. Okay? So look at that this week. See where you're compromising. See how you can not compromise as much. Like, it's not about doing a 180 and just like throwing it all away. But see where you can start making micro adjustments to start getting to where you really want to be. And that includes with money. So just think about this week and be like, hey, where am I letting money drive me to do things that I don't want to do? Simple as that. And then see what you come up with and start making those changes. So as always, I love comments, so post comments below. If you have any questions, post those below too. I love questions. Like, y'all don't ask me enough questions. So I'd be happy to answer them. So answer questions or post questions, I'll answer them. Post comments below. I'd really like to hear where you're compromising, that you feel like you're done doing that and it's time to make a change. So until next week, we'll catch you later. Bye.